I'm Bella, 32, a financial advisor in Boston. For 6 years, I scraped together every spare cent to buy my dream property. Last spring, I snagged a duplex but kept it hush from my family. That choice was smarter than I realized. One Sunday at family dinner, I overheard my parents plotting. They wanted my brother Kevin and his whole family to move into my duplex, rent-free, without even asking me. Want to know how this played out? Drop a comment with where you're watching from and follow for more stories about standing up when family pushes too far. Growing up, my family had a silent rule: I was the helper, especially for relatives. My parents, Martha and Frank, drilled into us that family comes first. But that weight always seemed heavier on me than on my older brother, Kevin. I love them all, but I was starting to see a pattern I'd missed before. Kevin, now 36, is the charming one, full of jokes and tales. Money? Not his strong suit. By 25, he'd piled up credit card debt on a motorcycle and fancy trips. By 30, he'd blown our parents' loan on a business that tanked in 6 months. The family always backed him up with cash and comfort. Me? I was expected to chip in, lending my hard-saved money or babysitting his 3 kids. Kevin's life was a mess lately. 8 months back, he got laid off from his marketing job. His wife, Sarah, a part-time teacher, couldn't cover their bills. With 3 kids, Liam, 10, Sophie, 8, and Ethan, 5, their rent hike was crushing them. They were barely scraping by. While Kevin struggled, I was chasing financial freedom. 7 years ago, I earned my MBA and landed a solid job at a Boston firm. Funny, right? I help clients manage money, yet my brother can't. I lived simply in a tiny apartment, packed lunches daily, and cut out extras. Each month, I saved 30% of my paycheck for my property dream. This year, I hit my savings goal and dove into real estate. A duplex felt perfect: live in one unit, rent the other to ease the mortgage. After months of hunting, I found a cozy brick duplex 20 minutes from downtown. It needed some TLC but was solid and affordable. A real estate agent guided me through the buying process. As the closing date neared, I was thrilled but nervous. This was my biggest solo purchase ever. I kept it from my family, partly to surprise them, but mostly to avoid Kevin's needs stealing my moment. Signing the final papers and getting those keys? Pure joy. Standing in my empty duplex, I felt proud. Each unit had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a snug living room, and a practical kitchen. The small backyard, shaded by a maple tree, was perfect for summer. I snapped photos of every room, dreaming up decor plans. That week, I got utilities hooked up and hired cleaners to prep both units. I checked local rental rates and listed the second unit. My plan? Move into one side soon and rent the other to cover 60% of my mortgage. Some friends helped me move furniture into my unit. We spent a Saturday painting the living room and kitchen in soft neutrals. By evening, with empty pizza boxes on the counters and paint on our clothes, I felt like I truly owned this place. But my family was about to shake things up in ways I never saw coming. The next Sunday, I headed to my parents' suburban house for our usual family dinner, ready to share my big news. I pictured their proud smiles, maybe a bit of shock that I'd pulled this off alone. I even brought champagne and rehearsed a little speech. I got there early to help Mom with dinner, like always. The smell of pot roast filled the house, and Dad was glued to a baseball game. While chopping veggies in the kitchen, I heard the front door. Kevin, Sarah, and their 3 kids arrived. Mom wiped her hands on her apron and went to greet them, leaving me in the kitchen. I kept making the salad, half listening to the chatter from the hall. Soon, I noticed my parents, Kevin, and Sarah had slipped into Dad's study next to the kitchen. Their voices were soft, but the thin walls let their words sneak through. Dad said, "It's the perfect solution. Bella has all this extra space now." My hands froze, knife over a cucumber. Extra space? I hadn't told them about my duplex. How did they know? Mom added, she always helps family. That's how we raised her. Kevin chimed in, it'd be such a relief, especially for the kids. They need stability. Sarah said, I'm thinking the boys in one bedroom, Sophie in the other. Their side's living room is bigger than ours, right? Their side? My heart pounded as I pieced it together. Somehow, my family knew about my duplex and had already planned for Kevin's family to move in, without asking me. I stood frozen, straining to catch every word of their hushed talk. Frank, should we help Bella move her stuff to make room? Mom asked. No need, Martha, Kevin cut in before Dad could answer. Her apartment's practically empty. Always pinching pennies instead of enjoying life. Sarah laughed. We'll spruce it up for her. I've got tons of ideas to make it a real home. My face flushed with anger and disbelief. They not only found out about my purchase but decided Kevin's family would take the second unit, rent-free, no less. I forced myself to keep chopping veggies, my mind racing. How did they know? Maybe they saw my name in property records, or a friend of Mom's spotted me at the duplex. Their boldness stunned me, no matter how they found out. At dinner, I waited to see how they'd pitch their plan. After serving food and small talk, Dad cleared his throat. Jeannie, he said, smiling, we've got great news. We've solved Kevin's housing issue. I sipped water, avoiding their eyes. Mom jumped in. Sweetheart, we know about your duplex. Mrs. Johnson from church saw you there last week. We're so proud of you for such a big step. Before I could speak, Kevin chimed in. It's perfect timing, sis. With our rent mess and the kids' school nearby, it makes sense for us to take the other unit. Sarah nodded eagerly. We'll be great neighbors. The kids are thrilled to live near Aunt Bella. All eyes were on me, expecting my eager yes. The air was thick with their certainty. I'd never said no to family, had I? Liam, the oldest, beamed. Mom says we can walk to school, and you'll help with my math homework anytime. I forced a smile, not wanting to crush the kids' hopes. The adults took it as a yes, diving into moving plans. Mom said, we'll help you move next weekend, then Kevin and Sarah can start bringing their stuff the week after. Kevin added, it's perfect since our lease ends soon. No rent means we can finally get ahead. They flat out said it, no rent. Nobody thought this was a big ask. No one asked how this would hit my mortgage or plans. No one cared that I'd worked years for this property. I stayed quiet, nodding, pushing food around my plate. I'd always kept the peace, but something snapped inside. They'd crossed a line I couldn't ignore. Driving home, emotions swirled. Memories hit me hard, canceling my vacation to loan Kevin car repair money, babysitting for their date nights, always stepping up because I was single with less responsibility. Pulling into my apartment lot, I decided, this time, I come first. Morning brought clarity I hadn't felt in years. Over coffee at my small table, I listed every time my family took my generosity for granted. The notebook filled fast with moments from college onward. I worked 2 jobs to pay for school while Mom and Dad covered Kevin's tuition, saying he needed more help. 3 times, Kevin borrowed my savings with vague payback promises. One Christmas, they suggested I buy the kids an expensive gaming console since I had no kids to spend on. The pattern was glaring. I'd been the family's safety net, always sacrificing. But what hurt most? No one asked about my duplex plans at dinner. They saw my hard-earned investment as theirs to divvy up. I called my friend Taylor, who'd helped move my furniture. When I told her, she was livid for me. Jeannie, that's outrageous, she said. You saved years for this. It's your future. They can't just move in without asking, rent-free, no less. But their family, I said, half defending them out of habit. Kevin's got kids to think about. Family doesn't get a free pass to use you, Taylor said firmly. Would Kevin ever do this for you? We both knew he wouldn't. I'd always been the one sacrificing, never him. You've got to set boundaries, Bella, she urged. Let them move in rent-free, and you'll never get them out. Your dream investment will turn into a money pit. She was spot on, and I knew it. After our call, I decided to stick to my duplex plan and speed it up, avoiding a family showdown for now. That afternoon, I reached out to 3 property management companies and set up meetings for the next day. By Tuesday evening, I'd signed with Cornerstone Property Management, a top-rated firm. Their manager, David, promised to find solid tenants fast, thanks to my duplex prime location. I chose to rent both units instead of living in one. This would boost my income and keep family expectations at bay. I'd find a small apartment near work, cutting my commute and distancing my personal life from family drama. By Friday, Cornerstone had tenants lined up for viewings. I took a day off to prep the units with David. We set lease terms and a rent higher than I'd planned, covering nearly 75% of my mortgage, perfect for the hot market. The next week was chaos. I dodged family calls and texts about their moving plans while secretly meeting tenants and signing leases. I skipped Sunday dinner, blaming a work emergency to buy time. By week's end, I'd locked in 2 great tenants with strong credit and jobs. Michael and Lisa, a young couple working at a nearby hospital, took the unit I'd planned for myself. Dr. Eleanor Wilson, a retired professor downsizing after her husband's passing, got the unit my family had claimed for Kevin. Both leases started in 2 weeks. It was tight but doable. I hired cleaners for a final sweep and set up move-in inspections with David. Meanwhile, I found a modern 1-bedroom apartment 3 blocks from my office. The rent was steep, but the location was worth it, and the duplex income kept my costs down. I signed a 6-month lease and planned to move my furniture the next weekend. Only Taylor and 2 close friends knew my new address. I swore them to secrecy. I'd tell my family later, after the units were filled, when their plans couldn't derail mine. Guilt hit hard, especially when Kevin called offering to help pack. I brushed him off, saying I wasn't ready. Mom texted about measuring curtains for Kevin's side. I said paperwork was holding things up and I'd update her soon. As tenant move-in day neared, family messages grew relentless. Sarah sent furniture links for my unit. Dad called about covering Kevin's moving costs. Mom left voicemails planning a housewarming for us all. Each text fueled my anxiety but hardened my resolve. The pattern was obvious. They planned my life, my money, my future, assuming I'd agree, especially when it helped Kevin at my expense. The weekend before move-in, I settled into my new apartment. I updated my address with the bank and utilities. The cozy space had a small balcony and sleek appliances, making the tiny kitchen feel fancy. Unpacking, I felt torn, guilty about the coming clash, nervous about facing my family, but proud and free. For the first time, I was steering my life and finances, thrilling yet terrifying. Everything clicked when David called to confirm both tenants were moving in Saturday. My plan was set. Now, I just had to brace for the storm. That week was tense. Kevin texted daily, asking when they could drop off boxes. "Hey sis, can we bring the kids' stuff this weekend?" "Sarah's packed their rooms," he wrote Monday. I replied hours later, still sorting property details. "We'll update soon." On Tuesday, Mom called while I was at work. I let it go to voicemail, listening during lunch. "Jeannie, sweetheart, I grabbed some cute curtains for your living room on sale at Macy's. Let's hang them this weekend when we help you settle in. Call me back." I texted back, "Thanks, Mom, but I'm still sorting things. Might need to delay a bit." By Wednesday, Dad joined in. His text cut straight, "Kevin needs to give his landlord notice by Friday. When can they move into your place?" I called him after work, keeping my tone light. "Dad, I get Kevin's in a rush, but I've got repairs and paperwork to finish first. I'll know more next week." His frustration was clear. Jeannie, they need answers now. Their landlord's already showing their apartment. They can't be left homeless. I stayed calm. I hear you, Dad. But I need to get everything right first. I'll update everyone soon. Thursday, Kevin showed up at my office unannounced. I was with a client when the receptionist said my brother was pacing in the lobby. I stepped out briefly. He looked stressed, raking his hand through his hair. Jeannie, we need to nail down move-in dates, he blurted. Sarah's panicking. We're out of our place soon, and you keep dodging us on the duplex. I glanced at the receptionist, who was pretending not to eavesdrop. This wasn't the place. Kevin, I'm with a client, I said quietly. We can't talk here. He raised his voice. You don't answer calls or texts with real answers. What am I supposed to do? I took a deep breath. I've got it handled. There are property issues I'm fixing. You'll know more by the weekend, I promise. He looked skeptical but backed off. As he left, he added, Oh, Sarah's wondering about paint colors for the kids' rooms, light blue for the boys, lavender for Sophie. Their assumption they'd redecorate my place done, but I stayed cool. We'll talk later, I said, heading back to my meeting. That night, Sarah emailed me duplex decorating ideas. She attached Pinterest boards for their unit, with links to furniture she wanted to buy. Let me know your thoughts, she wrote. Also, can we paint the kitchen cabinets white? The current color's too dark. I shut the email, my determination growing with her nerve. Friday, Mom called as I left work. Jeannie, your dad and I want to come tomorrow to set up your place and get Kevin's side ready. They need to move this weekend. Her urgency showed they were done with my stalling. I couldn't dodge anymore without spilling my plan. Mom, I've got errands tomorrow, I said carefully. Can we talk Sunday at dinner? She paused. Is everything okay, Jeannie? You're so cagey. If the duplex has issues, we can help. Dad's handy, and we'll fix it before Kevin moves in. Her concern made me feel sneaky, but I remembered years of their one-sided demands. It's fine, Mom. I'll explain Sunday, I promise. After, Kevin texted, Mom and Dad say you're acting weird about the move. What's up? We need out of our place now. Landlord's a jerk. Then, Sarah needs bedroom measurements to check if our furniture fits. And, can you cover the moving truck? We're short, but I'll pay you back next month. Each text proved I was right. Kevin's entitlement was blind. He expected me to fix his life, fund his move, no questions asked. Saturday, tenant move-in day, I woke with a knot in my stomach. I'd meet David at the duplex at 9 o'clock to hand over keys. Dr. Wilson was due at 9:30, Michael and Lisa at 11. I dressed sharp, wanting to look like a confident landlord. As I left my apartment, Dad called. Jeannie, we're heading to the duplex with breakfast to surprise you. Kevin and Sarah are bringing boxes. My heart raced. They'd get there before me, before the tenants, before I could explain. The showdown I dreaded was coming, and it was going to be messy. Dad, I'm not there yet, I said. I'm on my way to meet someone. Great, see you there, Dad said brightly, hanging up before I could stop him. I quickly called David to warn him. He promised to handle things smoothly and wait for me before starting the tenant move-ins. The 20-minute drive to the duplex felt endless. With every mile, I practiced my words, ready to explain my choice and hold my ground against my family's surefire anger and disappointment. Pulling onto the street, I saw my parents' car parked outside the duplex. Kevin's minivan rolled in behind it. In my rear view, a moving truck appeared. Dr. Wilson was early. The moment I'd feared was here, no escape. I parked behind Kevin's van and took a deep breath. Through the windshield, my family stood on the sidewalk, looking puzzled. David, in his Cornerstone Property Management polo, was talking to them, pointing at the duplex. As I stepped out, I heard Dad say, "There's a mistake. This is my daughter's place. She bought it for us." David spotted me and gave a small nod. "Mrs. Harper," he said formally, "your family thought they were moving in today." I stepped up, heart racing. "Mom, Dad, Kevin, Sarah," I started, voice steady despite my nerves, "I need to explain something." Mom clutched a bakery bag, confused. "Jeannie, what's happening? Who's this man? Why is a moving truck here?" The truck parked across the street. Dr. Wilson, a poised woman in her 60s, got out of her car and approached curiously. Kevin, quick to flare, stepped toward me. "What the hell, Jeannie? We were moving in today. We already gave notice." David cut in smoothly. "Let's step aside so Dr. Wilson can reach her new home." He nodded toward her. "She has a move-in scheduled, and her movers are waiting." "Her new home?" Sarah's voice spiked. "What's he mean, Jeannie?" All eyes locked on me. The moment I'd braced for had arrived. I stood tall. "I rented both duplex units. Dr. Wilson moves into Unit A today, and a couple takes Unit B this morning." Silence hit like a bomb. Mom gasped, Dad's face darkened, and Kevin stared, stunned. David turned to Dr. Wilson. "Doctor, give me a moment to sort this family matter. I'll be right with you." She nodded and went back to her car. "You did what?" Dad asked, voice low and sharp. "I rented both units," I repeated. "I signed year-long leases with qualified tenants through Cornerstone." Kevin erupted. "You're joking. We're homeless, Bella. We gave notice. Where do we go in 2 weeks?" Sarah started crying, turning away, phone in hand, likely texting someone. Mom touched my arm. "Sweetheart, there's a mix-up. We talked about this. Kevin's family needs that unit. You know their situation." I eased her hand off. "No, Mom. You talked. You all planned for my property without asking, assuming I'd agree." "I'd agree, like always." Dad cut in. "We thought you'd want to help Kevin. Family helps family, Jeannie. That's how we raised you." His guilt trip only fired me up. "Family helps family, sure, but it's a two-way street," I shot back. "When has Kevin sacrificed for me? When have you ever asked what I need before deciding my life for me?" Kevin scoffed. "Here comes the poor Jeannie act. You've got a job, no kids, no real responsibilities. Some of us have real problems." His words burned, dismissing my life. "Real responsibilities?" I snapped, voice rising despite myself. "Like financial ones? You've never shown those. You borrowed money from me 3 times, never paid it back," I went on. "Mom and Dad always bailed you out. Now you expect to live in my investment rent-free, ignoring my mortgage and my future." Michael and Lisa, the other tenants, had arrived, watching the drama from their car. David slipped over to explain the delay. Mom cried, and Dad put his arm around her. "I never thought you'd be so selfish, Jeannie," he said, disappointment thick. "Your brother has kids to think about." "I'm not selfish," I said firmly. "I'm realistic. This duplex is my investment, earned through hard work. I've got a mortgage. If Kevin's family lived rent-free, I'd foot the bill. How's that fair?" Sarah jumped in, her face stern. "We'd cover utilities, at least. Kevin's job hunting. We'd pitch in once he lands something." I shook my head. "That's not enough. Past promises fell through. How long before 1 month becomes 6, or a year? My investment would become a burden, not an asset." Kevin turned to our parents. Can you believe this? After all we've done for her. His words froze me. Done for me? My mind flashed to years of last-minute babysitting, loans never repaid, and bending my life to fit his needs. What have you done for me, Kevin? I asked softly. Name one time you put me first. One sacrifice for me. He stumbled, unable to answer. Dad stepped in. Enough, Jeannie. This isn't how we raised you. Family comes first. Family does come first, I agreed, but I'm family too. For years, I've put everyone else's needs above mine. No more. So what now? Kevin snapped. Where do we live? Same place you'd go if I hadn't bought this duplex, I said. Find an affordable apartment. Budget. Do what other families do. Sarah scoffed. Easy for you, with your privilege. That sparked my anger. Privilege? I worked 60-hour weeks for years, skipped lunches out, lived in a tiny place, drove an old car. This isn't privilege, it's hard work and planning. Mom, ever the peacemaker, tried again. Jeannie, maybe a compromise? Kevin could pay some rent, even below market. I shook my head. Too late, Mom. I signed 12-month leases with tenants. They have legal rights to those units. You could break the leases, Dad suggested. Pay the penalty. That he'd expect me to take a hit for Kevin's mess proved my point. No, I said sharply. I won't break contracts or risk my reputation because Kevin didn't plan. These tenants have rights, and I'll honor them. Kevin threw up his hands. Unbelievable. So much for family loyalty. Mom sobbed. Why hide your plans, Jeannie? If you weren't wrong, why the secret? Her question stung. Because you wouldn't listen, I said honestly. You'd guilt me, pressure me, wear me down. You planned my property's future without asking, assuming I'd agree, like always. David stepped up cautiously. Mrs. Harper, Dr. Wilson's ready to move in, and Michael and Lisa are waiting. I nodded, relieved. I need to handle my tenants now, I told my family. We can talk later, but my decision's final. Dad's face was cold as he took Mom's arm. Let's go, Martha. Bella's made her choice. Kevin glared. This isn't over, Bella. You can't leave us homeless. You're not homeless, Kevin, I said, tired. You've got 2 weeks to find a place. Families do it daily. Sarah pulled him away. Come on, Kevin. She doesn't care about us or the kids. Mom looked back, tears streaming. I don't know you anymore, Bella. This isn't my daughter. Her words cut deep, but I held firm as they drove off. Once they were gone, my shoulders sagged, and tears welled up. David handed me a tissue. That was rough, he said gently. But I think you did right. I wiped my eyes, standing tall. Thanks. Let's get Dr. Wilson settled. Walking to the duplex where Dr. Wilson waited, a weight lifted. The fight was as bad as I'd feared, but standing up was vital. For the first time, I put myself first. The fallout would be big, but so would the growth from breaking old patterns. As I shook Dr. Wilson's hand with a real smile, I knew this was a new start, for my tenants and for me. The quiet from my family after the confrontation was overwhelming. Mom's daily texts stopped. Dad's weekend check-ins disappeared. Even Kevin, who always called when he needed something, went silent. It felt like I'd been cast out for standing up for myself. That first week was brutal. I'd grab my phone to call Mom, then stop, reminding myself I wasn't wrong. I'd protected my investment and set a needed boundary. But 32 years of guilt made sleep tough, as I wondered if I'd been too blunt. Taylor was my rock. 3 days later, she showed up with takeout and wine, letting me spill my tangled feelings. I keep doubting myself, I confessed, curled on my new couch. Maybe I should have let them take the duplex. Am I selfish? Taylor stared, shocked. Bella, are you serious? You saved for 6 years for that property. 6 years. They expected to live there free without asking. How's that selfish? But their family, I mumbled, the words feeling empty. Family should lift each other up, not just take, she said sharply. When did Kevin ever sacrifice for you? I drew a blank. Exactly, she pressed. This pattern had to break. Honestly, you're helping Kevin by making him face reality instead of bailing him out again. I knew she was right. Kevin never faced his money troubles because I or our parents always saved him. By stepping back, I was pushing him to figure it out. Week 2 brought distractions. My tenants settled in, and David sent move-in reports. I fixed a leaky faucet in Unit A and a sticky door in Unit B. Handling these small tasks boosted my confidence in managing my property. The first rent checks hit my account, proving I'd made the right call. Seeing those deposits cover most of my mortgage felt incredible. This was why I'd saved and sacrificed for years. By week 3, the family's silence turned worrisome. I wondered if Kevin and Sarah found a place before their lease ended. Despite our fight, I cared about them and my niece and nephews. I finally texted Mom, just checking in. Hope all's well. Hours later, her reply was short, we're fine. Kevin and Sarah got a smaller apartment, affordable. Her cold tone hurt, but I was glad they had a place. I texted back, good to know. I miss you. No response came. A month later, Mom's handwritten letter arrived. Seeing her familiar script brought tears before I opened it. The 4 pages were our first real talk since the duplex clash. My dearest Jeannie, she started, it's taken time to process this and see your side. I was hurt by your choice, but I've been thinking about our family patterns and my part in them. She admitted they'd taken my kindness for granted and leaned too hard on me for Kevin's needs. Your father and I meant well, she wrote, but we should have asked you, not assumed you'd agree. We were wrong, and I'm sorry. Her apology made me cry. It was more than I hoped for and just what I needed. She added, Kevin and Sarah found a 2-bedroom across town. It's not perfect, but it's in their budget. The kids share a room, but they're tough. Kevin's working part-time at a warehouse and job hunting. Sarah's teaching more. They're coping, and that's what matters. She closed with hope, come to Sunday dinner if you're up for it. It might be tense, but your father and I will respect your boundaries. Kevin needs time. Love always, Mom. I clutched the letter, flooded with relief. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. Her apology and understanding meant the world. That Sunday, I drove to my parents with nerves and hope. Mom opened the door, paused awkwardly, then hugged me tight. I've missed you, she whispered. I've missed you too, Mom, I said, holding back tears. Dinner felt quieter than our usual lively family meals. Kevin, Sarah, and the kids didn't show, which was probably best. Dad stayed distant at first, but by dessert, he warmed up, and we had a near-normal chat. Before I left, Dad pulled me aside. We were wrong to plan for your duplex without asking, he said gruffly. You earned it. It's your call. His rare admission meant the world. Thanks, Dad, I said, hugging him. That means a lot. Fixing things with Kevin and Sarah took longer. They skipped family dinners when I was there. At my nephew's birthday party 2 months later, tension hung heavy. Kevin was polite but cold, Sarah barely looked at me, though they kept it civil. The kids, bless them, still loved their aunt. Sophie hugged me tight when I arrived, Liam showed off his science project, and Ethan climbed onto my lap during cake. Their warmth softened the awkward air. Over time, our family dynamic shifted. My parents started respecting me more, asking my opinion instead of deciding for me. They stopped volunteering my time or money. It was a small but huge change, proving I'd done right by standing up. Kevin and Sarah stayed distant, but signs of progress appeared. Kevin texted when he landed a full-time job, a small gesture I welcomed with a hearty congrats. Sarah added me to a group text about school fundraisers, a tiny step toward warming up. Shockingly, Kevin started acting financially responsible. Mom said he and Sarah made a budget and stuck to it. They even opened a small savings account, a first for them. Thanksgiving loomed, and I both looked forward to and dreaded it, the first big family event since the Duplex clash. Mom called to confirm I'd come, mentioning Kevin and Sarah would be there with the kids. "They're doing better," she said. Kevin's had a wake-up call. I arrived with wine and my pumpkin pie, bracing for an uneasy reunion. Kevin greeted me at the door with a shy smile. "Hey, Jeannie, good to see you." "Good to see you too," I said, surprised but sincere. The day had its awkward moments but was better than I'd hoped. In the kitchen, Kevin approached while I refilled my water. "I owe you an apology," he said, uneasy but earnest. "We were wrong to expect your duplex for free." His late but genuine apology touched me. "Thanks, Kevin," I said. "That means a lot." He nodded. "Our new apartment's okay. It's teaching us to live within our means, long overdue." It was the most self-aware thing he'd ever said. I smiled. "Glad it's working out." "I started a savings account," he added, a bit proud. "Not much yet, but it's something." "That's awesome, Kevin," I said warmly. Driving home, I thought over the past 6 months. The duplex fight was tough but necessary. By standing firm, I protected my investment and sparked real change in our family. My bond with my parents grew stronger, more equal. Kevin was stepping up financially, and I gained confidence. Learning boundaries are key to healthy relationships. The duplex was a solid investment. Both tenants were great, and their rent covered most of my mortgage, building my equity and savings. Dr. Wilson sent a holiday card, thanking me for her cozy new home. Unlocking my apartment door, I felt deep peace. The road was rough, but it led to growth for us all. I learned to value my needs as much as my family's. 6 months later, my life felt new. My one-bedroom near work was truly mine, decorated with care, not cast-offs. The short commute gave me an hour daily for yoga and reading, treats I'd skipped while saving. The property management company sent regular duplex updates and rent deposits. Both tenants renewed their leases, affirming my choices. Dr. Wilson planted flowers in her garden, and Michael and Lisa repainted their living room with my okay, boosting the property's value. The air in my parents' suburban home felt different now, warmer and more balanced, as if a quiet shift had settled into the walls. Our weekly Sunday dinners had resumed after the duplex drama, but they weren't the same as before. Gone was the unspoken expectation that I'd always been to everyone else's needs. Instead, my parents treated me as an equal, someone whose thoughts and boundaries carried weight. I wasn't just the dependable daughter who nodded along anymore. I was Bella, a 32-year-old woman with a voice they respected. One evening, as we lingered over Mom's pot roast, Dad caught me off guard. "Bella," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you've got a sharp mind for money. What do you think about moving some of my retirement savings into bonds?" His tone was earnest, not patronizing. I blinked, caught by surprise. Dad, the man who'd always dispensed advice, was asking for mine. It was a small moment, but it hit deep, a clear sign he saw my financial acumen in a new light. I walked him through my thoughts on low-risk investments, feeling a surge of pride. This was new territory for us, a partnership rather than a parent-child dynamic. But the real jaw-dropper was Kevin. Growing up, our roles were carved in stone. He was the golden boy, all charm and big dreams, always stumbling into messes that needed cleaning up. I was the steady one, the responsible sister who swooped in with cash or time to fix things. The duplex clash, when I refused to let him and his family move into my hard-earned property rent-free, smashed that old script to pieces. It forced us to rewrite how we related to each other, and I wasn't sure what to expect from the new version. The first signs of change were subtle but undeniable. Kevin didn't just keep the full-time job he landed after our fallout, he showed up for it consistently, something I'd rarely seen from him before. He and Sarah started making hard choices, cutting out expensive outings, skipping flashy purchases, learning to live within their income. It was a basic concept, but for them, it was a revelation, one that seemed to finally stick. Then came the repayments. Those loans I'd given Kevin over the years, the ones I'd mentally written off as lost causes, started coming back. Every month, like clockwork, a check arrived in my mailbox. They were small, $50 here, $100 there, but steady, and he sent them without me nudging. The first one came with a handwritten note, starting to make this right. Thanks for the push. It wasn't just about the money. Each check was proof that Kevin was changing, that our relationship was shifting into something healthier. On a sunny Saturday in June, exactly 1 year after the tense showdown at my duplex, my phone pinged with a text from Kevin. Hey, sis, can we grab coffee? Just you and me. My stomach did a little flip. We rarely met one-on-one, family gatherings were our usual deal. Curiosity mixed with a flicker of nerves, but I couldn't say no. Sure, I texted back. Name the place. The coffee shop was alive with the hum of weekend chatter, the air rich with the scent of roasted beans and fresh pastries. Kevin had snagged a quiet table in the corner, away from the bustle. He looked different, more grounded. His usual graphic tees were replaced by a crisp blue button-down, and his perpetually tousled hair was neatly trimmed. It was like seeing a new version of my brother, one I wasn't sure I knew yet. Thanks for coming, Bella, he said as I slid into the chair across from him, cradling a steaming latte. I wanted to talk without Mom, Dad, or the kids around. I nodded, sipping my drink, my pulse quickening as I wondered where this was headed. He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on his coffee cup for a moment. This past year has been a real eye-opener, he began. When you told us we couldn't move into your duplex, I was furious. I called you selfish in my head, especially with the kids and our money troubles. He paused, glancing up at me, his expression softer. But now I get it. That was the wake-up call I needed. Sarah and I were living way beyond what we could afford, always expecting you or Mom and Dad to bail us out when things fell apart. His honesty hit me like a jolt. Kevin, admitting fault? My surprise must have shown because he gave a small, self-deprecating smile. Yeah, I know, me owning up to my screw-ups is a new one, right? But it's true. We never had to face the mess we made because there was always a safety net. When you pulled it away, we had to figure out how to stand on our own. I leaned back, processing his words. I'm glad you see it that way, Kevin, I said carefully. Saying no wasn't easy for me. He nodded, his eyes meeting mine with a sincerity I hadn't seen before. I get that now. Our apartment isn't as nice as your duplex would have been, but it's ours. We pay the rent ourselves, no handouts. The kids are handling shared rooms just fine, and Sarah and I finally sat down and made a real budget, something we should have done years ago. Then he reached into his pocket and slid an envelope across the table. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it, revealing a check for $1,000, a hefty chunk of the money he still owed me. It's not everything, he said, his voice steady, but it's a start. I'm going to pay back every cent. That check was more than money. It was a symbol of his growth, a tangible sign that our sibling bond was evolving into something new, something better. My throat tightened, emotions swirling. Thank you, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. No, thank you, he countered, catching me off guard again. For not enabling me anymore. for forcing me to grow up, even when I fought it tooth and nail. We talked for nearly 2 hours, the conversation flowing like it never had before. It was raw, honest, the kind of talk we'd never managed as adults. Kevin opened up about how he'd always envied my discipline, my ability to save and plan, but resented it because it made his own shortcomings glaring. I admitted how tired I'd been of being the family's go-to fixer, how the guilt of standing up for myself had gnawed at me even as I knew it was right. By the time we hugged goodbye, something had fundamentally shifted. We weren't locked in our old roles anymore, the responsible sister and the reckless brother. We were just Bella and Kevin, two adults finding a new way to be family, free from the weight of past patterns. The lessons from the duplex didn't stop at home. They seeped into every corner of my life, reshaping how I moved through the world. At work, I found a new confidence in my financial decisions that translated into boldness I hadn't tapped before. I started speaking up in meetings, offering ideas I used to keep to myself. I volunteered to lead projects, surprising even my boss with my initiative. That newfound assertiveness paid off when I sat down with her to negotiate a promotion and a 15% raise. For the first time, I advocated for myself with the same fierceness I'd always reserved for my clients. Walking out of that meeting, signed contract in hand, I felt unstoppable. The duplex success also lit a fire under my ambitions. I started spending evenings poring over real estate listings, researching neighborhoods and crunching numbers for a second property purchase. The steady rental income from my tenants, Dr. Wilson and Michael and Lisa, covered most of my mortgage, giving me both the financial cushion and the courage to dream bigger. I met with financial advisors and real estate agents, diving into market trends and zoning laws. Every decision was grounded in careful analysis, not the emotional pull of family expectations or impulsive whims. The duplex had taught me to trust my judgment, and I wasn't about to squander that. My personal life got a glow up too. I became intentional about who I let into my world, choosing friends and dates who showed up for me as much as I did for them. Saying no became easier, no long-winded justifications, just a polite but firm decline. It was a small shift, but it changed everything. I had more energy for the people and activities that truly mattered, like weekend hikes with friends or quiet mornings with a book on my balcony. I wasn't stretching myself thin anymore, and it felt like freedom. As Thanksgiving rolled around, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. It would be the first major family gathering since the duplex incident, a day I'd come to see as a turning point. Mom called to confirm I'd be there, her voice warm but cautious. "Kevin, Sarah, and the kids are coming too," she said. "They're doing better now. Kevin, especially, he's really stepped up." Her words carried a hint of pride, and I clung to that as I prepared to host. I decided to hold Thanksgiving at my apartment, a bold move for my small space. It was a cozy squeeze, but I wanted to prove, to myself as much as to them, that I could carve out my own traditions. I spent days cleaning, decorating with simple fall touches, and agonizing over Mom's turkey recipe. When the day arrived, I greeted everyone with a bottle of wine in one hand and my slightly overcooked pumpkin pie in the other, a nervous smile plastered on my face. Mom arrived with her famous stuffing, the scent instantly making the apartment feel like home. Dad took charge of carving the turkey, his steady hands making quick work of it despite my amateur attempt. Kevin, Sarah, and the kids piled in, the children's chatter filling the room with life. Liam, Sophie, and Ethan hugged me tight, oblivious to the tension of the past year, their affection a reminder of what mattered most. The Thanksgiving table in my small apartment was a far cry from the sprawling spreads of my childhood, but it was mine, and that made it perfect in its own messy way. Someone, probably Ethan, my rambunctious 5-year-old nephew, knocked over a glass of water, sending a small flood across the tablecloth I'd ironed just hours before. The mashed potatoes I'd labored over were a bit lumpy, despite my best efforts to channel Mom's creamy perfection. But as we sat around that modest table, plates piled high with turkey, stuffing, and slightly overcooked green beans, I looked at my family and felt a warmth that outshone the imperfections. Gratitude washed over me, steady and deep. The journey to this moment had been a rocky one, paved with heated arguments, weeks of silent treatments, and raw hurt feelings. Yet here we were, stronger for it, our bonds rebuilt on mutual respect instead of the lopsided obligations that once defined us. Mom's famous stuffing filled the air with its savory aroma, a comforting constant from my childhood. Dad carved the turkey I'd nervously prepared, following Mom's recipe with the precision of a surgeon, though I'd checked it obsessively, worried it'd be too dry. Kevin, Sarah, and their kids, Liam, Sophie, and Ethan, filled the cramped space with chatter and laughter, their presence a testament to how far we'd come. The kids, oblivious to the tension of the past year, darted around, sneaking extra dinner rolls and giggling over their own secret jokes. It wasn't a picture-perfect holiday, but it was ours, and that made it beautiful. Halfway through dessert, my slightly overbaked pumpkin pie, served with generous dollops of whipped cream to mask its flaws, Kevin stood, his wine glass catching the soft glow of the string lights I'd hung around the room. "To Jeannie," he said, his voice steady but carrying a warmth I hadn't heard in years. "For showing us that real family support means pushing each other to grow, not propping up bad habits. And for making one hell of a turkey for your first try." The room erupted in laughter, the kids' high-pitched giggles cutting through the adults' chuckles. Liam, my 10-year-old nephew, raised his juice glass with a dramatic flourish, mimicking his dad, which sent Sophie into another fit of giggles. Glasses clinked, the sound bright and hopeful, like a promise of better days. Mom reached across the table, her hand finding mine, her fingers warm and familiar. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, reflecting pride, love, and a quiet respect for the woman I'd become. That moment etched itself into my heart, a snapshot of a family healing, growing, and finding a new balance after a year of upheaval. The duplex, that unassuming brick building with 2 units and a lone maple tree in the backyard, had been the unlikely spark for it all. What started as a practical investment, a goal I'd scrimped and saved for over 6 years, became the epicenter of our family's transformation. When I stood my ground, refusing to let Kevin and his family move in rent-free, I wasn't just protecting my financial future. I was setting off a chain reaction that forced us all to confront our roles, our assumptions, and our flaws. The confrontation had been brutal, angry words, tears, and weeks of icy silence, but it cracked open the space for something better. Kevin's change was the most striking. For years, he'd been the charming older brother who skated through life on charisma, always landing in financial trouble and expecting a bailout. I'd been the reliable one, the sister who loaned money, babysat at a moment's notice, and rearranged her life to clean up his messes. But after I drew that line at the duplex, he started to shift. He held on to his new full-time job at a local marketing firm, showing up day after day with a commitment I'd never seen. He and Sarah downsized their lifestyle, no more lavish vacations or impulsive gadget purchases. They learned to live within their budget, a concept that had once seemed foreign to them. Most surprising was the money. Those loans I'd given Kevin over the years, the ones I'd mentally written off, started coming back. Every month, a check arrived in my mailbox, small amounts at first, $50 or $100, but consistent. Each one came with a note, sometimes just a scrawled "working on it" or "thanks for the push." It wasn't the dollars that mattered, it was what they represented, Kevin taking responsibility, maybe for the first time in his life. It was proof that the wake-up call I'd delivered had sunk in. My parents, too, had changed. They no longer saw me as the default fixer, the daughter who'd always say yes. Our Sunday dinners, once a stage for their requests and assumptions, became spaces for real conversation. Mom would ask about my work, genuinely curious about my latest projects at the financial firm. Dad, who'd always been the one doling out advice, started seeking mine. One evening, as we cleared the table, he pulled me aside to discuss his retirement portfolio, asking my thoughts on diversifying into index funds. I walked him through the pros and cons, feeling a quiet thrill at being seen as an expert, not just a dutiful daughter. The duplex itself stood as a quiet monument to this transformation. I'd drive by on weekends, sometimes stopping to chat with David, my property manager, or waving to Dr. Wilson as she knelt in her flower garden, tending to vibrant tulips and daisies she'd planted. The tenants, Dr. Wilson in Unit A, Michael and Lisa in Unit B, were model renters, paying on time and treating the property with care. Their rent checks hit my account like clockwork, covering most of my mortgage and building my equity. The property's value had climbed steadily, a fact I confirmed during a recent appraisal. It wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of what I'd built, a life where my needs and goals held equal weight. Reflecting on the past year, one truth stood out like a beacon: boundaries aren't selfish. They're vital for healthy relationships. For so long, I'd poured everything into my family, often at the cost of my own dreams. By valuing myself, my savings, my plans, my peace, I created room for all of us to grow. The old adage about not pouring from an empty cup became my mantra. Taking care of my financial and emotional health didn't make me less loving, it made me better at it, able to support my family in ways that empowered rather than enabled. That Thanksgiving dinner was more than a meal, it was a milestone. As we passed dishes and swapped stories, I saw a family no longer bound by old patterns. Kevin wasn't the needy brother expecting handouts. My parents weren't orchestrating my life behind my back. We were equals, each bringing something to the table, literally and figuratively. The kids' laughter, mom's quiet smiles, dad's steady presence, it all felt like a gift, one I hadn't dared hope for a year ago when we stood on that duplex sidewalk, voices raised and hearts raw. The duplex, once a battleground, had become our turning point. By holding firm, I didn't just secure my investment, I helped my family evolve into healthier versions of ourselves. Kevin was budgeting, saving, and owning his choices. My parents were listening, really listening, for the first time. The pain of that confrontation, sharp as it was, had carved out space for growth we couldn't have imagined. I still feel a pang of gratitude every time I pass that brick building with its maple tree, its leaves now turning golden in the fall air. It's more than an investment, it's the place where I learned to stand up, where my family learned to change, and where we all found a new way to love each other. For that unexpected gift, I'm forever thankful. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family who took your kindness for granted? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. It's a tough road, but it's worth walking. If my story struck a chord, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a nudge to claim their space. Sometimes, the most loving act is saying no when it matters most. Thanks for joining my journey, and here's to finding courage and clarity in your own path to healthy boundaries.